Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Wellness Wednesday with Dr. Wells. And I have a special guest here with me, Erica Tuggerson. So I just want to take a few moments just to briefly introduce her. And I'm saying your last name correct, Tuggerson, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So Erica Tuggerson is a social worker. She works at UF Health, the Villages Rehabilitation Hospital. She's been there for about 5 years. And I want to say I met Erica, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, at an event that she had. And she asked me and another friend and colleague to come and be speakers at her event. And when I tell you, it's like we connected, like we've known each other for life, forever. So it was a pleasure for me to reach out to her and for her to answer the call and say, yes, I will join you for Wellness Wednesday with Dr. Wells. So we're here tonight. We're going to discuss depression and anxiety. And if anybody knows anything about depression and anxiety, I believe Erica is one who can speak to that. One, given her experience in her current field, and then what she does with her organization. So Erica, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so thank you so much, Dr.
You're
Wells.
welcome.
I love Wellness Wednesdays, so it's really good the middle of the week to kind of slow down and learn some things. So thank you
Yeah,
so much for all you do.
you're welcome.
So I am a daughter of my parents are Mac and Margaret Harvey, and I Ocala, born and raised. Um, Graduated from high school at Vanguard High School. Um, Live here in Ocala still, but I work in the villages. And I knew I always had a passion about service because that's what my mom implemented in me and my sisters, to help people. That's what she strived to do. Is any way she could, she would help anyone. So I think she really birthed that in us to be of help, be of service to others. And that's something that I've always wanted to do. So I started out in education, and then I kind of went on into the social services realm, social work realm. So
Mhm.
I I love helping people, and that's just something that makes me feel good when I help others. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think those of us who have that servant heart, it just comes naturally. And I can definitely say that you have that servant heart. And it shows in what you do and just who you are. So tonight we're going to talk about depression and anxiety. And in my field and in the time that I've been a nurse, and I can't believe it's been 25 years,
Wow.
6 years. Nope. I'm trying to think. My son is 30. 27 years that I've been in the nursing field.
Wow.
And I have dealt with patients who have anxiety. I dealt with patients who have depression. I myself have throughout my lifetime, several different times I've dealt with both depression and anxiety. Most recently being 2021, after my grandmother passed, my maternal grandmother passed. I had a really bad stint with depression and anxiety. And I think I shared that with you when we were initially talking,
Mhm.
and what I had to do to work through to get through that. So tell me a little bit about your experience with depression in, the people that you see or that you've interacted with. What does depression look like?
So depression sometimes can be a little tricky. Sometimes you can hide it. A
Oh
lot
yeah.
of times you can really, I've had some patients where they hit it and I did not catch it. So they're
Yeah.
really good at it. But really what depression is you're down. You're down, and I think we all, like you just said previously, Dr. Wells, is that we've all had depression. We just didn't want to say the word or admit it,
Hmm.
and anxiety as well. So when you're down and you're feeling low and you don't want to be bothered, you want to be alone, you don't want to interact with others, sometimes you don't want to take a bath.
Hmm.
Sometimes you don't want to communicate with your spouse, with your children. Um, and sometimes you can put it off. You can put it on the table and say, "Well, I'm going to pick it up later." So
Hmm.
depression can be very, very tricky, but you don't want to be around anybody. You don't want to be bothered. You pretty much, you're down. And I think we can all admit that we've had depression before,
Right.
and all I know the I'll look up the dictionary where it says depression is a mental health disorder that extends beyond occasional feelings of sadness. Individuals with depression often experience overwhelming hopelessness and despair, affecting various aspects of their daily lives. So when you think about that, yes, we have all had some type of sadness, especially like you said, Dr. Wells, in 2021, when COVID hit. I mean, we didn't know what was going on. Those of you that worked in the medical field, you were praying. If you weren't praying, you figured out. You figured out prayer. You didn't know, you didn't want to bring anything home. You were trying to protect yourself. So a lot of us were depressed. It's like you're stuck. You don't know where to go. Anxiety. You're anxious. You're like, it's kind of like you're hyperactive. And you don't know how to control it. And you know that it's not your typical self, but you don't know how to take a deep breath and just relax. So I always, with my patients and with family members and with myself, as I say, breathe, take a moment to just breathe and reset your body. So,
Yeah, I can tell you when you were talking about COVID back, 2020, 2021, the number of cases of anxiety and depression went through the roof.
Yes.
And it was because there was so much unknown and there were so many people getting sick and we didn't know what it was coming from. People had social anxiety. Of course, they sent us all home and we were all at home. And so there's anxiety that happened from, everybody being able to go out and do as they please. And now we're all stuck in quarantine at home. And then you had depression that you say, the woman who could hide her depression, she could put it on the shelf, go to work as if nothing's wrong, and then come back home. And she now is putting on a different hat or a different mask and is still working through depression. Well, during COVID in the quarantine period, there was no way to go to hide it. So it came out. And then there was lack of access to care because you couldn't go and see anybody. Things were shifting, things were changing. And so depression looks different for everyone.
Right.
You may have the person who's a little sad, they can shake it off, and that's just in that moment they're dealing with a little sadness. But when it begins to consume you and it impacts your day-to-day living and it goes beyond a certain period of time and you're still having these feelings, then we can classify that as depression to some degree.
Right.
When I am seeing patients, there's some questions that we ask. It's called the PHQ-9, but when we're doing the annual physical, we do a PHQ-2. And there's 2 questions that we ask. Do you feel down, hopeless, or depressed? And do you have lack of interest or pleasure in doing things that you normally enjoy? And based on those 2 questions, the answers will then prompt us to keep moving in the assessment or to ask some more detailed questions. So when you spoke about you're taking care of this patient and you couldn't pick up on the depression, what are some of the things that you look for? What are some things that you do when you're talking to your patients?
So first of all, I have to build a rapport with them because I'm a stranger to them. And sometimes when you're in a hospital setting, you don't want to tell the whole truth. You want to give them partial information, and sometimes it comes out later. So my job is I try to see them every day, and I orchestrate my schedule to watch them and to go to the gym and, try to see them and see how, but I try to figure out what they like. So if I find out what they like, what makes you smile, what makes you happy? And to be honest, in life, you have to have something that makes you smile and something that makes you happy. So if I ask those questions and they can't find an answer, something's going on.
Yeah.
I don't make assumptions, but I say, okay, what's going on in your life that's caused you to feel the way you feel, or caused you to feel a little down or sad? Sometimes tears come out, sometimes they hold their heads down. So I watch the body language a lot
Mm-hmm.
to see what they do. Um, and then I just have a conversation, hey, anytime, you keep it open. If you would like to talk to me, you can always contact me. Um, I'm just a regular human being. We're all in this together. I tell them, there's no person over here that's better than you. You're not better than anybody else. So I just try to get on their level, or pretty much come to them as just a regular person, not
Yeah.
saying I'm always the social worker. So I'm just the average person, just like you are, and we're
Yeah.
all here to work out a situation to get better and stronger in rehab. So that's what I try to bring to the table.
Okay. It's important that you work on building that rapport, because when we look at, let's just say we have a group of people in a room, there may be 2 or 3 of those people who are just like social butterflies. They're going to come talk to you. You don't even have to walk up to them. Then there's those others, they'll say hi and keep it moving. And then there's some others, they're not going to talk to you at all until they get to know you and build that level of trust to where they feel that they are safe, or that it's a safe space for them to come and talk to you and to divulge their innermost secrets. And so when we are talking about depression, we talked about the signs and symptoms of depression. You kind of talked about that a little bit. And we talked about there's different phases to depression, right? What are some triggers for a depressive episode?
What I witnessed is something that happened in your childhood, some trauma, something someone might have said to ignite that. So, you're just having a conversation and then they just get emotional, or either they shut down and you're like, whoa, so what just happened? So, and sometimes we have to have grace. So let me have you deal with what you're dealing with, and I'll come back. Yeah. So then when I come back, if it's a good time to come back, then we'll talk about how they were feeling. So, like you said, when you're questioning patients, and I try not to dig too deep, because we all have something that we can dig out. Let's just be honest. I think if we hold that to our hearts and just admit it, we all have something that we can share if we choose to share it. Right. But my job is really to make sure everybody is well. Everybody is feeling better, is going through the therapy process, and the nursing staff is just making sure that they're well, they're better and stronger for when they can go home. So yeah.
So that's important. So you said something that stood out. Like, we have to have grace, right? Because we can't go full force with some people, because it could be more detrimental than helping them. And they may not be in an emotional place where they can deal with all of those things right now. And you're speaking of individuals that are in a rehab center. So they're outside their normal environment.
Right.
They need help, either an injury or some type of surgery or something occurred, or some illness that caused them to have to depend on others for help. Right. And so those things in and of itself could cause an individual to deal with some depression and anxiety. Because when we're in our own environment, we can pretty much we think we're controlling things, but we're really not, right? But we can control the things within our environment. I can't control when this nurse is going to come knocking on my door, come in my room at 2:00 in the morning for whatever reason, And so that in and of itself can cause these individuals to have some depression and anxiety. And especially when they're dealing with injury or illness, and the unknowns that come with that could cause them to develop or deal with some anxiety as well.
And I want to say too, to piggyback on that, is that something that I've learned is that you're only going to heal as much as you want to heal.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot when I said about gracing people or finding grace, that goes for yourself as well. So if you want to truly heal, or be better, you have to really just admit to yourself. Sometimes you may not want to tell anybody, but truly admit to yourself that, okay, I'm dealing with this thing. I don't know how um, to cope with it. I don't know how to feel better. I know I've taken my medication. I know I've exercised. I know I'm, active, doing something to help myself. But at the end of the day, you got to be honest to yourself. So I always try to come to with finding ways to forgive yourself, finding ways to forgive others,
Mm-hmm.
and asking those others for forgiveness, because sometimes we hold on to 10, 20, 30 years
Yeah.
of baggage, and then you come to a point in your life and you're like, why am I going through what I'm going through? So I've had situations where a person might have came in diagnosed with something, but they really weren't diagnosed with something. It was just they needed to just admit how they were feeling and release it. So,
Right.
and that was therapy for them to
Oh
just
yeah.
release it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I found that unforgiveness can show up in our bodies in so many
yes,
different ways.
yes.
It can show up as anxiety. It can show up as chest pain. It can show up as, fibroids. It can show up as high blood pressure. Many different ways it can kind of, exhibit itself within our bodies. And I can say, with me and my situation, being able to admit that there was something wrong. I couldn't see the signs,
Right.
and I want to say, I don't remember exactly when this happened, but I don't remember the dates. We went through a really bad situation with a church that we were at for like 13 years. And that caused such depression and anxiety for me. And I had a friend of mine to come over, and I lost so much weight. And like whenever I'm stressed, I'd stop eating. I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat. I forget to eat. And so I had a friend to come over to me, and she said, "Friend, I am concerned.
Yeah.
I think you're depressed." And I said, "No, I'm not depressed. I take care of depressed people all the time."
Yeah.
And she said, "Dr. Wells, when somebody is not sleeping or all they want to do is sleeping, what is that?"
Mhm.
I was like, "Depression."
Depression.
When
It
somebody's
is.
not eating, what is that? Depression. When somebody's not this, what is that? Depression. When somebody wants to be isolated and doesn't want to be around anybody, what is that? Depression. And
Depression.
then I'm like, I'm depressed. Like I could not see it. I
Right.
could not see it. And as long as I could not recognize, for whatever reason, my brain just did not make the connection. Or
Mhm.
I wouldn't allow myself to say those words.
Right. Right.
Depressed.
Yeah.
So once I agreed and like, okay, yeah, I'm depressed, I was able to then get the help that I needed through counseling.
Mhm.
And, I did very well. I was in counseling for a couple years. And then every week, couple times a week, I was in counseling and then therapy. But when I went to therapy, I'm thinking, okay, I'm here for this, right? Oh no, we had to peel back all those layers to that to
Yes.
that. I did a whole lot of crying and I did a lot of screaming.
Yes.
And I left my first session telling this lady, I feel worse than what I did when I came here. I'm not coming back.
Oh.
You know what? I came back. I showed up.
Yeah.
We had to peel back the layers because it
Yes.
wasn't just this situation that happened. We had to go way back from when I
Way
was a
back.
girl.
Yeah.
And all the little
Mhm.
things, all the puzzle pieces that were scattered, we now had to pull them back together to make that puzzle visible again and deal with each and every piece. And that was the hardest part. Like that was the hard part. The
Mhm.
depression was hard, but working through it was hard. But in the end, it was so worth it.
Mhm.
It
It
was so.
is. It is.
And I'm grateful for friends and people in my circle who will call
Yes.
me and be like, look, girl, listen, I'm
Yes.
scared. You got me scared. Like, so,
Right.
um,
And you need those types of friends
mhm.
that can be honest and
Oh, yeah,
tell you and be there to help you and support you throughout.
most
So
definitely.
yeah.
And
So
even
yeah.
with our family and friends and those, our family, the people that we see each and every day, sometimes we can overlook those symptoms
Right.
because we're used to mama just doing everything and she's still doing it all and she's still holding everything together and she's still making all the, all the things happen. And we don't necessarily pay attention to that. Our husbands, our significant others, our partners, we see them each and every day, and we can miss those subtle signs of depression that may be forming in their lives. And so it's
Mhm.
important for us to pay attention and to be in tune with and have discernment when it comes to those that are close to us.
Right. And I want to say about anxiety. So, when we hear the word anxiety, people say, oh, I don't have that. Well, so the definition of anxiety is, and I'll read it, it says it's characterized by persistent and excessive worry, often about future events or potential threats. While some level of anxiety is healthy, excessive anxiety can be debilitating. There are several types of anxiety disorder. So we can go into that, but we can go into that later. But you can
Yeah.
have social anxiety, and I think you said you can have panic attacks. You
Hmm.
can have um, there is phobias. That's the type of anxiety, um, and then you just pretty much you're restless. You can't. And I think we can all say that we've had anxiety.
Hmm.
You know, so yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we understood what anxiety was.
Yes. Thank you. We were gonna transition into that. So thank you for bringing it up because that's what was next. For and I'm very transparent, so I like to talk about me because I don't like really talking about anybody else. But fast forward from that one situation where I had to go through therapy and was really struggling with depression. When my grandmother passed, things were a little different. It was just as if somebody just snatched the rug from under my feet, and my foundation just wasn't stable or secure anymore. And I could not sleep. I had no desire to eat. I
Mhm.
was forgetting things. Like I went to my grandmother passed on a Sunday. That Monday I worked while we called the funeral home. We did all the things. Tuesday I worked. I worked the whole week. I would bring my work computer and my phone with me while we were meeting with the different people. And Saturday we buried my grandmother. Sunday we got on a plane, went to DC to take my daughter back to college at Howard University. My husband and I stayed there for a couple of days, and we came back home. And I went to go get a gift for one of my colleagues who was covering for me during this time that I was out, and put my wallet on the top of my car. I had 4 opportunities to see this wallet. Did not see the wallet. Took off, wallet on the car. It wasn't until the next day that I missed the wallet. And I was standing in Dunkin' Donuts getting her a gift card. I ordered me a order of hash brown. They have this snack and bacon, which is the bacon with the little sugar on it, right?
Yes.
I love bacon. Y'all don't judge me.
Yes,
Don't judge
bacon.
Don't judge me. I love bacon. And I ordered an iced coffee. And so I'm standing there. I gotten the gift card in her cup, and I got my hash browns and the bacon. And I'm standing there waiting for this iced coffee. And I'm on the phone with a friend. And I see people coming in, they're ordering their stuff, and I still don't have my coffee. So I begin to get a little agitated and upset. Like, where is my coffee? Like, these people are coming in and, what's going on? So I asked the guys, like, listen, I'm waiting for my coffee. I don't have my coffee. And he was like, oh, I thought we made the coffee for you. No worries, no worries. So he went to doing his thing. And then the manager came and said, you're still waiting? I'm like, yes, I'm waiting for my coffee. So he made me another coffee. He made a large. And I was like, well, I ordered a medium. But thank you. So here I am, phone in my hand. This is the coffee that I had all along, right? I get to the car. I'm like, hold on. I put the coffee on, and then I look. This was the original coffee.
Mhm.
I got the coffee. At some point, I got a straw, put the straw in the cup. I'm sipping on this coffee. All this time, I don't realize the coffee is in my hand.
Right.
I
Yeah.
felt like I was losing my mind.
Yes. Yes.
And I just felt like everything was falling apart and I couldn't
Hmm.
get a grasp of anything. And
Hmm.
that's when the panic started.
Right.
It would hit me. It's like somebody was sitting on my chest. I couldn't breathe, the
Hmm.
anxiety, and it was just like I couldn't catch my breath. I felt like I was having a heart attack. It was horrible. And it would just hit me out of the blue. And I up and left and went to Costa Rica for I think 8 days.
Yeah.
I talked to my daughter. I was like, I want to go on this retreat. And she was like, well, you should go, you know?
Yes.
And I up and left and went. And so that was my way of dealing with it, was
Right.
running,
Yeah.
But in that moment, it was like a life or death situation for me. I needed to separate because
Right.
everything for everybody, anything anybody needed, they know, call Toya, call mama, she gonna do it, whatever. But we get in those situations and I was dealing with anxiety and panic attack and I just could not deal with it. And so I
Mhm.
say all that to say is when we think about the treatment of depression and anxiety, there's a lot of people who are so against therapy, one,
Mhm.
and medication. But both of those things work. And there's other therapies that are available. Can you speak to that for a little bit?
So there is always, I always tell people to do some, what's good now is meditation.
Hmm.
Um, there's, oh, well, there's antidepressant medications, of course.
Hmm.
Um, some people now have said that they want, um, I can't think of the exercise, but it's not really exercise. Not Zumba, but it's more like
Yoga?
yoga. Yoga is now the in the norm now, I guess, a phase or something. But I think it's really good. I tried it through my depression when I had depression.
Hmm.
And it's very therapeutic. And what I would say to people is don't knock it. Try it.
Hmm.
Always try to open up yourself to something that can be beneficial. You can't say,
Yes.
oh, it won't work because you haven't tried it. So
Hmm.
just try it. And just, block out all what you've read or heard about, but think about yourself and think about your health and your well-being, and then just
Hmm.
try it. But there are medications. There's yoga. There's Zumba. Some people want to move. Some
Yeah.
people feel like, and there's meditation. So I some people go to saunas and they just stay there and they go there weekly.
Hmm.
Just find something that can, and step outside your box.
Yeah.
Find something that can help you to
Yeah.
be better.
Yeah.
Be better.
So what I heard you say is do what works for you, right? At the
Right.
end of the day, there's many different therapies that are available. There's medication that's available, but the key is one, seek help, seek out help. Go to someone who is licensed, someone who is experienced, someone, a medical provider who deals with psychiatric conditions, a social worker who can help walk you through
Mhm.
these things and get the help that you need. And so the national crisis line number is
Yes.
988. So I want to make sure
98.
I put that out there.
Yes.
And we'll continue to put that forward and bring that forward because some people feel that they're alone and they don't know where to turn. 988 is there. I'm here to help. I know Erica, she's
Yes.
helping in her realm as well. So
Mhm.
I want people to know that they are not alone. And then medication does help. I can tell you, you saw the number of medicines that I was on during that process just to get me through to
Yes.
a good place, a better space. It took medication. It took me going to therapy, and I was in intensive therapy,
Mhm.
um, like 3 hours a day
Mhm.
with the group and then individually. So it took those things to help me work through all of that. And
Right.
so I said all that to say is that there is help for people to do what works for them. But we want to leave with this. 988 is the number to help. It's the National Crisis Hotline. And so if we don't mention one thing tonight that you don't recognize and you don't connect with, is know that you're not by yourself. Erica, is there anything you want to say in closing?
So I'm glad that you are better.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad that you are better, and that you've actually um, gave yourself grace.
Mhm.
You've allowed yourself to heal. And to be honest, in dealing with depression or anxiety, it's an ongoing healing process.
It is.
Ongoing. So never say that, oh, I'm perfect now.
Mhm.
Oh, I know everything about depression and anxiety.
Right.
No, because it can come, and like we said, it can sneak up on you at any given moment.
Yes.
But you go to counseling, or you do some type of um, way of dealing with your depression and anxiety that can help you. So, like I
Mhm.
said, there are different, like we were just saying earlier, there are so many different avenues that you can take. But find what fits you, what works
Yeah.
for you, and don't knock it.
Right.
So, what I would end with is, so I'll say Happy Mother's Day this week to everyone.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, and then Happy Nurses Week,
Thank you.
and also Happy Teacher Appreciation Week. It's so
Yeah.
amazing how it's always the week of Mother's
Yes.
Day or before
Yes.
Mother's Day. So we as women, we really need to take care of ourselves more
Mhm.
and better. Find something that you like to do and do it.
Yeah.
Find something that you enjoy, write it down. Say, okay, this week I'm going to do this, or
Mhm.
next week I'm going to do this, and just do it. Because we live busy lives. We try to do everything for everybody else, and sometimes
Yes.
we neglect ourselves.
Yeah.
So and you get depressed because you're doing it, but you need to take a moment and say, you know what, I'm going to do this for me, and
Yeah.
find something to do for yourself every week.
Yeah.
Every week.
Carve out that day, self-care day.
Self-care day every
Yeah.
week. It's so important.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. My depression and anxiety was tied to grief. And if we know anything about grief, it never goes away. We just learn
It
how
never
to
goes away.
deal with it and live with it. And how I
Mhm.
would explain to people how it would hit me was like waves. Sometimes at first it was like the big monsoon and the tidal waves that just kind of hit me and would take me over. And sometimes it's still like that, but I have the strategies in the waves,
Right.
things that I can use. I can pull those things out my toolbox that'll help me, right? And then
Right.
there's other times where it's just the little ripples where the waves are just barely touching my feet. So my grief and depression this last time was tied to grief. My anxiety and depression was tied to grief. And so I was able to get the help and the resources, tap into the resources that I needed to help me. And you're right, we do a lot. And then we get mad when we're doing it all. But one thing
Yes.
I've learned is I've
Mhm.
learned to, when I catch myself doing that, I stop right in my tracks and say, okay,
Yes.
Toya, we're going in the wrong direction. I need you
Mhm.
to redirect.
Right.
I need you to pivot. I need you to
Yeah.
reset,
Reset. Hmm.
right? Because one thing, I don't want to become overwhelmed. And that's what happened. I was so overwhelmed
Hmm.
to where I had no capacity for nothing else.
Right.
And what that taught me was that I don't ever want to go back to that place again because it was
Right.
not good and it was not healthy and it was scary.
Right.
So I knew that there was somewhere for me to get help and I reached out for help. And so I am admonishing and I'm pleading with those who are dealing with some of the same things, depression, anxiety, grief, you name it, reach out for help. You're not by
Mhm.
yourself. We're going to go ahead and end tonight. Erica, thank you so much for being here with me for an episode of Wellness Wednesday.
Thank
This has
you. And I do have my organization. I didn't speak
been,
of that. I'm
yes,
sorry.
please
So
share.
Legacy of Life, Servicing and Love. You can go on my website. It's called yourlegacyoflife.com, where I help people grieve healthy. So it's just sometimes just a conversation like we just had tonight. So
Mm-hmm.
just think about your loved ones that have passed away. Remember their legacy. Remember how much they poured into you and loved you unconditionally and loved you wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
And and then think about your own legacy, what you're going to leave behind as well. So I my prayer for everyone is to find their legacy, because when you do lose someone else, it's time for the torch to be passed.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to create your own legacy. Yes, we cry, we're sad, we miss our loved ones, but guess what? Think about what they imparted in you, and think about what your job is to do.
Mm-hmm.
So so go to my website. Like I said, I will be having an event soon, June the 2nd. And I'll give more information to Dr. Wells about that later on. But thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And when you have the flyer and you have the information, please share so I can share it on my social media and my business page as well. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time again, this has been Dr. Latoya Wells and Erica with Wells Legacy Health and Wellness. Stay safe and be well.
Thank you.